Welcome to the Channel 99 Review Public Access Television for Channel 27 for Albuquerque, New Mexico. My name is Mike Rivas. I'm your host for the Men's Forum section of the program. We have a couple of we have three tape segments for you today. One from Parent Craft, one on our upcoming Father's Day program, and some other things. We have a new rule here in which we thank our production staff right up front, without whose help this program would not be possible whatsoever. Of course, Mike Kruchowski is our tireless producer. Dusty Arrington is our director. Our floor director, Ann Reiner, kind of keeps me online and appraised of what's going on here. Mr. Jim Hartman is, Mr. Jim Hartman is our technical director. Joe Heafy is our audio man, and on camera today is Mr. Mark Farragle and Kathleen McMahon. And I should be able to say that without reading it, but that's just not where I'm at right now. Yeah. Today we'll be looking at the creation of sacred space. We have our guest for the second time is a fellow named Chad Perry. Chad has been married about 11 years, 36 years old. Phenomenal graphic artist and writer. He has a master's degree in creative writing. Where he falls into what we're doing today is he does workshops, sweats, and retreats. He's part of the Eagle Wolf Medicine Lodge, which is sort of a part of the tradition is from the Iroquois Nation, and that's up from Santa Fe. So welcome, Chad. Good to see you.
Hi.
Hi, guy. Geez, I'm always interested in sacred space, and I've had the pleasure of doing a couple of sweats, over the last few years. One of them, you were the person in charge of putting the lodge together and going out in the wilderness and building that thing. Was an experience.
Yes, it was.
It was. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you became interested in the Iroquois tradition and in sweat lodges?
And for years I had read books on the subject, and and just wanted the opportunity to participate in a sweat lodge. And one day I was having brunch with a friend, and she said, I'm going to go do a sweat lodge this evening. And I begged her to take me along, and that was about 6 years ago. And since then I stumbled across this fellow in Santa Fe who's part Iroquois, and I've learned quite a bit from him about different traditions around the Purification Lodge, both Iroquois as well as the Lakota, Sioux Lakota tradition, and the little variances between them. They have their little quirks and their different little ways of doing the ceremony. So it's interesting to get this hybrid of the tradition.
Well, America's pretty much a hybrid.
Yeah.
I was reading a little article on Bob Dylan when he got the National Association of Recording Artists and Sciences Lifetime Achievement Award, and they asked him to say a few words, and Dylan said that his father told him, son, it's possible to become so defiled in this world that your own mother and father will abandon you, and if this happens, God will always believe in you and your own ability to mend your ways. And a tremendous part of the creation of sacred space is, of course, approaching God, looking for purification, and creating a ritual space in which you can pull some sort of a universal power down into the reality of the here and now, and begin some sort of a healing. Got anything to say about that, or just talking about it?
I recently met a man. You talk about the God recognizing you. He was at the Bly workshop here a few weeks ago, and he was from Indianapolis, and he had run across some native people, and they had taught him how to do sweat lodges, and he'd never had a good relationship with his son. And they started doing sweats together. And he said, my son was always, I was kind of the wimpy kid in the class and this kind of thing. And now he feels real strong about himself, you know, and he's always willing to do things, and we do a lot of things together. And, you know, there's an example of where the Father and the Son have connected in sacred space, and, you know, the Father did not reject the Son. In fact, they've got this really strong bond, and they're both blessed by God in that space. So, you know, I think there's a lot of truth to that statement that you can be spurned by your parents, but that whole idea of seeking God can make you strong.
You bet, you bet. And I can't think, Philip Glass did the music for it. I can't think of the person who did the film. Koyaanisqatsi, which was the Hopi word for life out of balance, which it seems that we are spiritually out of balance in America on a lot of levels. My comment has been over the last year in realization is that we travel so quickly. The amount of information we get, the fact that we're a global village rather than an isolated little society anymore, we have so much input that trying to seek a balance in the world out here is real hard to do. And I think part of the men's movement is we begin to define a spiritual space within us in which we can begin to find a center and something off of which we can judge the world and create a right action as we approach life, and begin to bring some harmony into this thing rather than chaos. And we get so much information; it is pretty chaotic, you know, the amount of stuff we get. You were this little thing about. Tell me about this congregation participation in American churches now. Just talk.
Yeah. Well, here's an example of men seeking. You know, I think one of the things that's happened in the world is that men have forgotten boundaries. And because of that, we've had some incredible pollution. We've got some incredible diseases. And it's because we've bought into the whole myth of science that, you know, we can do anything we want and then it's okay. And part of the need for ceremony is to find a balance that isn't based in the science or scientific culture, and finding ways to have boundaries. Ritual space involves boundaries, and one of the places that, you know, was always considered a place for boundaries and a place for ceremony was the church. But the fact of the matter is that only 25% of the churches now are populated by men, or the men are members of churches. So it's become a place where women congregate for prayer, but not men. And I think the reason that is because it has become a place that lacks spontaneity, for one thing, and that I think there needs to be spontaneity in ritual. And it's, you know, I mean, in church, you know, you've got a wooden floor, cement floor, so you're not sitting on the earth like you would be in a sweat lodge, or you're not out sitting around a campfire with a drum out in the woods, and somehow men feel removed from what's real.
Let me do this, which I haven't done to this point. We urge anyone interested in joining in the conversation or giving us some input, which this program seeks continually. This show is about and for men. It's a forum for men's issues. And we have a phone number you can call, which is 292-3263. And we'd really love to hear from you if you got something to ask about or some input to give us. Please call. One of the things that's interesting that you're talking about, Chad, to me is there's a lady named Joanne Jacobs who did a little article in Thursday, May 9th's Albuquerque Journal. It's headed "Conflicting Role Models Leave Men Struggling with the New Masculinity," which is not a bad headline, but most of the article was tremendously negative towards men's issues and men's lifestyles. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what she does in here is kind of knock us and claim that we go out into the woods and try to return to the days of the woolly mammoth, and that approach things with macho, that we create spears. And I get kind of, I get confused sometimes because I think that people are just not hearing what we're trying to say. So that ties into a little bit about what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that article too. There's a real, I don't want to use the word healthy, I mean the opposite of healthy, but there's a real healthy sarcasm out there in our culture about anything that's different. And particularly if it's trying to connect with any kind of traditions or anything from the past, there is a real ethnocentricity that somehow we are more advanced and we're superior to any culture or any way of belief that's come before us. And I think writers like this buy into that. And you see both male and female writers who buy into this crap that to go back to the past is to go back to oppression, you know, the oppression of females, that all the old cultures were very oppressive towards women. I just have trouble believing that. I think a lot of the Northern European cultures were quite oppressive towards women, but I don't think some of the cultures that lived closer to the earth had oppression. I believe that they had a healthy respect for each other, and that's why they had a women's way and a men's way. And the men were initiated by men, and the women were initiated by women. And it was very healthy, and it was a very healthy balance. They lived in balance. The Hopi way is very much in balance. And it's really, people like that, for instance, have never gone out and sat around a campfire. Yeah, I mean, it's just real obvious when you read the article. They've never sat around a campfire. They've never hit a drum. They've never been in a sweat lodge. They've never done any of these wonderful things. And if they did, they wouldn't be writing this crap. And that's what that is crap.
Well, it's kind of a sneer and a play to the lowest common denominator of the American psyche. You know, Joseph Campbell says, you know, we're a world community. That's obviously where we're going. You know, that's what McLuhan was about, you know, with the Gutenberg Galaxy in that years ago. You know, communication is instantaneous worldwide. We're joined together. And, you know, one group, this program always seeks to look at win-win situations. You know, what we're not about trying to be in an argument with anybody or denigrate or you know. It's important that men recognize that women are fighting every day in this country.
You bet.
You know, single moms trying to keep a family together without a lot of support, doing it, you know, equal work for equal pay. Those kinds of things are, you know, it's real important. You know, as a man, over the last few years, as I've begun to recognize the amount of abuse that women, you know, physical, sexual, economic, you know, that there's, you know, that whole disempowerment, you know, it is real important that we recognize that and begin to deal with it. And it's painful, man, you know, to think that this part of our America, you know, is experiencing that. But you know, I keep looking at solutions. You know, I want to see how we can take, you know, a part of what you and I were talking about earlier is the sacred space or ritual space is the here and now.
That's right.
This is the Holy Land here. This is the God experience now. It's not over there. Someone else is not having it. We are having it. You know, the Holy Land is not in Jerusalem for you and I. The Holy Land is here in these mountains in this land that we
That's
live
right.
in.
And it can be in our hearts too.
You bet.
There's a lovely poem that I've memorized, and it's by the ecstatic poet Kabir. It's translated by Robert Bly, and it goes, "Inside this clay jug there are canyons and pine mountains, and the maker of canyons and pine mountains. All 7 oceans are there, and hundreds of millions of stars. The acid that tests gold is there, and the one who judges jewels, and the music from the strings no one touches, and the source of all water. If you want the truth, I will give you the truth. Friend, listen, the God whom I love is inside." And for some reason, in our culture, I don't know what, if it's the myth that we've grown, the Christian myth we've grown up, but there's always this idea that God's out here and he's real angry. You know, I mean, that is a strong image, and particularly in the
Well,
Old
that's the
Testament.
Judeo-Christian God.
Yeah,
You know.
he's always out here and he's real angry, and he can never be inside and be gentle. And I think that's one of the things that you find in ritual space. It's one of the things I found in ritual space, is that God is inside as well, and he's very loving, and she is a very loving kind.
I like that poem. Kabir wrote that?
Kabir.
You bet. They could probably get that, get a book of that at just about any.
Yeah, it's called the Kabir Book.
All right. We have a tape queued up for you, and this is a weekly segment that we run, created for the Channel 99 review by the Parent Craft people, and it's a short one, but if you listen, you might get some things about the topic, which is for our children.
After an episode of misbehavior, take time to talk with your child. Show as much understanding as you can. Make it clear that the behavior was wrong, but the child is still loved and valued. For instance, you might say something like, "It's not okay for you to draw on the walls. Drawing is something you do only on paper. You make beautiful drawings on paper. Come and let's do a few now."
Welcome back to the Channel 99 Review, Public Access Television, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Channel 27. This is the Men's Forum. I'm your host, Mike Rivas. Our guest is Chad Perry. And we'd like to urge you to call in if you got a comment or something good to say. You can reach us at 292-3263, which is this telephone right here. You could just call and talk to us. So don't fail to do that if the mood strikes you. We'd love to hear from you. We're talking about sacred space today and the creation of sacred space. One of the things that is important as I try to look for the spiritual in me, as I look in here, it is also important for me to begin to look out there and try to see that same power in other people and be aware of it working. You know, one of the things women kind of probably justifiably believe about men is that we're a little bit egocentric sometimes. And so it's real important for me to make a conscious effort to look outward and try to see that force at work in life, realize I'm not the exact center of the universe. And of course, part of what sweats are about is the invocation and the recognition that there is a greater power and that there is a force at work in this universe that kind of has us, what is the cliche, kind of has the whole world in its hands.
Right.
You know, I'd like to hear you talk a little bit more about that, but I would like to say something, and that is that we have a telephone call on line 3.
Wow.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, Mike. Hello, Chad. Listen, Mike, you probably know me. This is Leonard.
Hey, Leonard.
How you doing? I was just flipping through the channels and I happened to see you guys there. And I know that guy there.
Yeah.
Hope your set's still working.
Pardon me?
Hope your set's still working since we're on it.
Oh, yeah. Listen, you guys have an interesting topic there you guys are talking about. And I was wondering, I'm a Native American. I'm a Navajo, and I was wondering on the issue of God you guys are talking about. You know, I found that as far as being a Native American and trying to integrate into this society, one of the things that has become a big problem was trying to understand somebody else's concept of a God. You know, for me, when it became comfortable for me, what happened was that the anger I had was that I was believing in somebody else's concept that was instilled in me when I was young. And mainly that was my mom and dad's concept of a Christian God. And as I grew up, you know, I realized that that didn't work for me. You know, because the way I see it was that the way I was taught was that the Christian God was punishing.
Yeah.
He punishes you for doing bad things, and And I had to come to terms with that. And now I'm comfortable with what I believe in. My God is loving. That's all He does. And if there's any punishing that goes on, that's I do the punishing, and what I do is I punish myself.
Yeah.
So that's what I believe in. And as far as some of these rituals that go on, and the ceremonials that we go through as a member of the Native American Church, what we believe in is that the ceremonies itself that goes on is of the female type, and what you see is you see men taking care of the church, and they say that the female, the church itself is of a female type origin. So it's like a balance, the men taking care of the women, the female and the men, male and female balance there. And there was something else I wanted to talk about, but right now it all slips my mind.
Yeah. I know that feeling.
Yeah. But the topic you guys have there is really interesting. Another thing I realized too is that a lot of for me personally, some things do bother me as far as like what you're doing right now with sweat lodges. That is it's good to know that other people are becoming are realizing that the old ways is something that works. The old natural way to bring you back to Mother Earth, and that the world that we create around us, like you said in churches, we more or less buffer ourselves from nature.
Yeah.
And then we create a different reality, and
Yes.
then in that world we can rationalize and create whatever we want to create. That was prophesied by old ancient Indians, and they say that sooner or later we're going to go make a complete circle and come back, and everybody's going to start going back to nature again. I think that's what you're doing is very evident.
Are you familiar with the Seneca prophecy that whatever we do now touches the next 7 generations?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Well, you think about it, about 7 generations ago is when the Industrial Revolution started. And it's real interesting that we're affected so much by that, to the point that, that it's hard for men to feel connected to the earth, let alone to their families. And there's just a lot of out-of-balance living.
Yeah.
And what so many people are trying to do now is find a balance, which is beautiful, because what we're doing now could affect the next 7 generations. And that trying to find a balance is, I find it a lot more positive than trying to build war machines, which I'm all for dismantling.
Yeah, that's true. Another thing that I was told when I was a young boy on the reservation was that I think it was my grandfather told me that they believe in this cycle, this complete circle, and and according to some of the legends that were told was that as far as the Navajos are concerned, that they believe their emergence was in the Four Corners area.
Uh-huh.
And they emerged, and then the civilization was more or less created from here, and it went east, and it made a complete circle, and it actually went from here to China, and you can see how the civilizations have moved, like from China to the pyramids, to the Greek mythologies, and to Atlantis, and eventually back to the pyramids in South America.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Back to here. What they're saying is that when the cycle is complete, what happens was that the destruction of the earth was going to be created here in the Four Corners area, and to believe just to look at it rationally was to look at Los Alamos and where all the uranium came from was from the Monument Valley and was refined in Durango, and they were processed up here in Los Alamos to make the first atomic bomb.
Leonard, one of the things that I'd like to interject here is One of the things that a lot of Christian organizations look at now is this whole idea of there being a transformation of the soul in the firestorm. And, you know, people complain about the concept of the Great Society, and when John Kennedy was alive saying that, you know, ask not what you can do for your, or ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Those were the last times in our lives that there has been a belief. And I think that George Bush is right, actually, right now in talking about that 1,000 points of light thing. We don't have to have the world end or go into Ragnarok or a final apocalypse for us to begin a recovery of the planet and of the soul of each of us and of the society. I think that we can be born without a destruction. And I think that a lot of what's going on in America right now is just looking towards a creation of a better life.
Yeah.
You know, compared to the rest of the world, we've got it pretty good, you know, as far as resources and abilities.
Right.
And when it gets down to it, it's what each of us does now. And a lot of this creation of ritual space and bringing things into the here and now and dealing with stuff and putting those resentments and things aside, you know, that's what I'm looking for in this men's thing, is what we can do right now, and the kind of empowerment that I can get through the creation of ritual space, through this little program, through the fellowship and love of other men throughout New Mexico and throughout the country, which we are nationwide right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't think the world's going to end, is what
No,
I'm saying.
no, I'm not saying that.
I know you're not. I just want to...
I don't, you know, to me, it's not literally going to end. What I believe in is that when the end when it really comes, it won't be the end of physical or the end of the world. It's going to be the end of how we think now.
Yeah, I think
our attitude toward Earth and toward life
Right.
is going to be changed. You
and
know?
for the better, I hope.
That's right. It's just like recycling. Recycling is a strange concept to us. 2, 3, 4 years down the line, it's going to be something that everybody's going to be doing. You know, it's something that's going to be a reality in 2, 3 years. We're going to be recycling everything.
Yeah.
So, hey,
that's
I
great.
just wanted to say hello and thanks for listening to me there. I really
Yeah.
appreciate the program.
Thanks for
Well,
your
I
call.
appreciate your calling in. And anybody, thanks, Leonard.
Okay, bye.
4 wins.
You know, if you are watching the program and you'd like to call in today, you can reach us at 292-3263. It's 292-3263. One of the things Dylan said in the interview, Chad, that I thought was good is somebody asked him, are you happy or are you unhappy? And he said, you know, I don't think it's whether you're happy or unhappy. I think whether it's you are blessed or unblessed. And one of the focuses that Bly and Michael Mead and those guys have in a lot of their workshop is the blessing.
Yes.
You know, the act of blessing and giving and empowering. And that seems to be something terribly lacking, especially in especially in like a machismo approach, where it's me for me and you for you.
Right,
and,
right.
You know, and not having that support going back and forth. So.
You know, the machismo idea, you know, that's a fairly recent development in culture. For eons, the concept for men was one of husbandry. I just read an article in the latest stewardship. I just read an article in the Utne Reader, the latest Utne Readers on men's issues, and talked about the fact that men need to get back to being husbands of the land and of their families.
Right. That's great. We have another caller. Thanks for calling.
Yes, I was curious as to if you guys believe in heaven or hell. In that sense.
Can you define it a little bit better? Can you give me a definition of heaven? And
In the
hell?
Christian religion, you know, they say if you follow Jesus Christ and repent of your sins and everything, you know, you get to go to heaven, you know, paradise, you know, no more tears.
Yeah.
Or do you believe in a place of punishment where people go when they die, when they pass away?
I believe that people can very well get into punishing themselves while they're alive.
Right.
that people can create these amazing hells. And we live on a very beautiful planet. I believe that we have an amazing garden that we can live in if we choose to live in it. And that's part of being blessed as opposed to unblessed. And the whole idea that, you know, as soon as a baby's born, they're born in sin, I just don't buy. I just don't believe that.
You know, one of the things that's interesting is I've heard the comment several times that us as a society, we've got this preoccupation with the devil. And
Yes.
And up until, you know, if you're going to have a monotheism, you know, you can't have a devil.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you have
a good
one
point.
God. And up until, in the early Catholic Church, they believed that goodness and darkness came from God, you know, that his right arm was light and his left arm was dark, and that he did the good stuff to you and he did the bad stuff to you. And, you know, in angelology, when they talk about angels, in early mythology, angels had two wings. One was dark and one was light. And they had to learn how to sail on those two wings. I create some hell on earth situations for myself because I'm dumb. You know, I mean, they're probably going to say that on my tombstone, you know, not smart. You know, I mean, that's what it'll say.
Do you guys believe in life after death?
I've never been there. You know, okay, let me ask you this. If I was born in 1946, where was I before that? I mean, because if, you know, in 2046, I'm not going to be here either. I mean, was I dead before I was born? You know, I mean, what is that? I mean, it's like, you know, it's trying to second guess the universe is something I don't think any of us can do. I think that if we make the effort to create a ritual and sacred space, and this is easy stuff to talk about, you know, I mean, you know, talk's cheap. I can sit here all day long and
Right.
mouth this, but living it, you know, on a day-to-day basis and bringing this consciousness into, you know, the reality that I have here is a real struggle. The gift, of course, is life. You know, that is the gift. And you can believe that if you live long enough, good stuff is going to happen to you and bad stuff is going to happen to you. And to try and...
So what you're trying to say is make the best out of what you have right here, right now?
Right, and
That's
I
right.
think the other thing I'm trying to say is that you have to be aware that there is good and evil. And it ain't out there, man. It's in here.
That's right. We all have shadows.
And that's, you know, so... Well, I appreciate you giving us a call. God bless, don't quit trying, you know.
Right, right.
You know, I never know what to think about that. But that concept Leonard was talking about of getting a loving God,
Right.
you know, is real hard for me because I grew up in Southern Baptist. Man, you know, he's going to burn you now. He's going to burn you later, and so I have to. Well,
let me give you an interesting myth that the native people have, and you know, a myth in the terms of a truth, not the recent concept that we have about myth being some kind of a falsity. They believe that you know, on the medicine wheel, which is a sacred space, that we come out of the West. And when we're born, you know, there we are, we're a little baby, and our little soul's in this little baby package. And there's this great she-bear there named Mudjekeewis. And Mudjekeewis says, who's going to speak for this one? And all the spirits of the animals look this baby over and they say, well, I'll speak for this one. And that's where the concept of having an animal helper comes from in the Native American way, is from this. Now, when we die, we go around the circle completely. In other words, we go in the north, we go in the east, we go in the south, and when we die, we come back to the west. And there's Mudjekeewis again, ready to help us cross over, so that we go on and we become part of the elders. And then at that point, we move from the west to the north, and that's where all the elders live. And this is a Lakota belief. You know, all your grandparents, all the great teachers are there, and they're still very much alive, but they're alive in a spirit way.
you bet. You know, an interesting thing talking about on our first phone call is that early Germanic peoples believed in that the oldest woman in the village was a deity. I mean, that was the source through which life came, and so it was matrilineal in that respect. In the same way, I think Navajo is also. I shouldn't say anything about Southern Baptist belief because I'm not Southern Baptist. And, you know, I'm sure that there are Southern Baptists out there that have absolute faith that there's a loving, supporting, caring God. And that's a generalization, and I should not do that. We're going to go to a short tape on our upcoming Father's Day program right away. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Mike Kruchowski, producer of the Channel 99 Review. You know, Father's Day is only a few weeks away. Last year, in several cities across the nation, feminist groups staged vocal protests against child abuse on Father's Day, as if men were the only perpetrators of child abuse. I think that's a deplorable as well as misleading smear tactic, especially when one considers the constant drubbing we men take in the commercial media. For this Father's Day, I propose a more fitting celebration here in Albuquerque. On June 16th, Father's Day 1991, the Channel 99 Review's 22nd show will be cablecast live from our studio. Rather than featuring our usual one-on-one interview with a guest, I'd like to fill our studio with men and their children. This will be your chance to come tell us and Albuquerque about the special relationships you and your children are forging. It doesn't matter whether you're married, divorced, or never married, or whether you're young or old. In fact, if we can get 3 generations together, children, fathers, and grandfathers, so much the better. To help make the event even more special, I propose we plan a group picnic at a nearby park before the show. Being a parent is tough work for both women and men. And it's time to start recognizing the extraordinary efforts our parents have made in the past and are making today. Let's not let another chance to pay tribute to our city's many decent, caring, and involved fathers pass by, only to let the fanatics desecrate this occasion. If you're interested in joining us for our Father's Day show or at the picnic, please give me a call at my home at 268-5260. And if you don't have pencil and paper handy right this moment, just look for my phone number in the credits at the end of today's show. I hope you'll come join us for this special occasion and the celebration of fatherhood on Father's Day this year.
Welcome back to the Men's Forum section of the Channel 99 Review Public Access Channel 27, Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm your host, Mike Rivas. This is our guest, Chad Perry. We're talking about rituals or the creation of sacred space. Let me remind you that this is a call-in. We'd love to hear from you. You can call us at 292-3263. And, you know, don't be shy. Give us a call. Let your fingers do the talking. That's that's the buzz. Chad, let's talk about types of ritual space a little bit, if you'd like to. It might be some ways of approaching the creation of ritual space.
Yeah, I can only talk about the types of ritual space that I've had any kind of experience with, of course. One of them, of course, is in the Purification Lodge, and in that you're confronted by darkness and by heat, and those become elements of ritual space. And there's an amazing struggle that takes place with all that, and that's something we can talk about a little later. The important thing that happens in that kind of a space is that there's a lot of prayer, and you really learn some things about prayer that you don't have opportunities elsewhere to learn, because it involves everybody participating. It's not like you have one person who does all the prayer and everybody else listens and you sing a couple of songs and go home. It's not that kind of a space at all. Everybody's really praying and trying to pray hard. So there's that kind of ritual space. There's also dancing, and the idea of pushing yourself, dancing for a long period of time, pushing yourself beyond your limits and getting into a ritual space. There's singing, and Susan Osborne likes to compare singing to praying. It's just another way of prayer. And singing and singing and singing and doing chanting, that kind of thing.
Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands.
That's right, that's right. There's also ritual space in creativity. The artist If an artist is truly working, I think, that artist is involved in pushing beyond their limits and getting into new spaces, and that involves a ritual space. Taking something, oil, paint, words, whatever, and molding them into something else. So when I talk about creativity, I'm talking about all types of art. The use of music to compose amazing new symphonies, to write amazing new poems, to make amazing new sculptures, whatever. That's all the creative process, I think, is a ritual space. And then in relationship, that's another ritual space. The whole idea of making love to another person. And I'm not talking about just the sexual act, but to truly make love with another person involves being able to communicate. And communication comes through any number of ways. And I think that's what all these are attempts at, is communication with something. So you can have ritual space between two people as well as yourself and whatever you're trying to indicate.
Right. You're the, well, this is, of course, your second appearance on the program. We had Dave Lindfest not too long ago, who's a writer also.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole concept of journaling and writing.
I keep a journal, and it's pretty interesting.
Do it every day, do you?
No, I don't. I do it when it hits me to do it. I don't try to write how I'm feeling every day in it or anything like that. That's not the kind of journal I keep. I'll be sitting at a restaurant and somebody will say something that strikes me as odd. I'll write that down. All the ideas I have for stories or essays or poems, I write that down. I rarely write about everyday experiences that I'm feeling, unless it works itself into a poem.
Got another poem?
Yeah. You want to hear some?
Yeah, I'd like to urge our viewers that they can call in and join in at 292-3263 at any point. And we'd love to hear from you. It's 292-3263. I'd be willing to bet you that number appears on the screen from time to time if you just keep your eyes open for it. So we're talking with Chad Perry, who's a creative writer, graphic artist, and does retreats, workshops, and sweats here in New Mexico. You have something you could... We're just going to do a poem for you.
Yeah. Here's something that I've been involved with men for the last year or so quite a bit. I mean, I was in a men's group before men's groups were the thing to be in. This is back in 85, 86.
You were country when country wasn't
That's
cool,
right.
is that
That's exactly it. And we did all kinds of wild things. We'd take our clothes off and dance together. We were always trying to break down boundaries between us, and trying to find new ways. A lot of drumming, a lot of singing. Did a lot of things. And then recently I've been involved with men's groups again, and one of the things that's always hit me is men talking about what their father did or did not feed them. What they did or did not get from men. And so I wrote a poem. I realized what my father fed me. And it's called When the Engine Blew. My father, he fed me his hands, standing close and next to the pistons of a Rambler. And now when I see dirt under my fingernails, I dig it out, not to get rid of it, but to smell that grease and that thing a father gives a son. I got it in bits and parts scattered upon a greasy floor. Now I scratch into the edges of an engine where spark plugs seed the heat that drives a piston. I guess at everything else. I guess this is the way of that feeding. My father wouldn't know if there are other answers. His father only fed him his hands. And what my father learned about pistons, he learned alone. Is that what I'm to feed my son? Should he only know my hands?
What do you think?
No. It's the rhetorical question at the end of a poem.
Uh-huh.
And that the idea is that the answer is rather obvious, and I'm leading up to no. He should know more than my hands.
Right. What kinds of food? What kinds of food can you think of that would be good to nurture a young male?
Ritual space. The things that I'm involved with, singing, dancing, encourage those things. I remember when I was a child, boys were not encouraged to sing and dance. They were encouraged to play football, or basketball. I was always too small to play those things. I like playing those things, and I feel that, for instance, basketball, I think, is a very amazing dance that men do together. It's a very beautiful dance. But it is, it's a dance.
I'd never thought about that.
But it's a
right,
dance.
yeah.
I mean, the way, Michael Jordan, he's an amazing dancer.
Right.
But that's not the only way that men should be able to dance together. And, I loved to sing when I was a boy, but, there's always this peer pressure about singing. So I wouldn't, I try to make my voice sound lousy. Well, when I started doing sweat lodges, and singing is an integral part of a sweat lodge, I found my voice again, and I love to sing.
You know that Bly says that of course, the father was removed from the home, and so the proximity to the child was lost, and that what actually young men get from their fathers is molecular. It's that
Right.
being there on a day-to-day basis. It's not something that you teach. It's something that actually goes right down to the molecules of the being. Just that closeness, and that whole idea of food, and I guess the concept of sacrament. We're talking about American Indian ceremonies, ritual space, but I've been in churches where I've seen the pastor. I could understand that, what he had there was the body and the blood of Christ. I mean, I've seen the transformation happen. And it's something that happens in here with us. I think I want to be real clear in this program that we're not saying that one way is greater than another
That's right.
way. What we're trying to say is that the attempt and the recognition and the effort that we make to recognize the divine in ourselves and in the world around us, and bringing that into the daily problems of living, of being a business owner and going down and, people bring problems from childhood now into business that are phenomenal. We're just starting to recognize all this unresolved stuff. So, this whole thing of becoming a human being here, with other human beings is...
That's a key word too. Human beings. I think people are sick of war. They're sick of pollution. They're sick of people not getting along with each other, and so they're saying, "Hey, we've got to change this." I mean, I was just at a retreat last weekend at the Dominican Retreat House. It's a Catholic organization. They had me doing sweat lodges at this retreat, and I met one of the most enlightened men I've ever met. And he's a Franciscan priest. He loves Iron John. He has no problems with what they say about Christianity and the shortcomings of it. He thinks there's some shortcomings, and he's trying to make steps to improve it.
You bet. Let's do this. We'd like to urge you to call us at 292-3263. If you've got a comment, we'd love to hear from you, or a question, we'd love to hear from you. We have, let's just take a short break for a moment. We'll be right back.
All around the country, men are gathering in groups, both small and large, to explore what it means to be a man in today's changing society. Discover what these men are saying about friendship, love, family, and their work. Join us on the Channel 99 Review, which has a regular feature of a men's forum every first and third Sunday at 6 p.m. on your access station.
Welcome back to the Men's Forum section of the Channel 99 Review, Public Access Channel 27. I'm still your host, Mike Rivas. This is still our guest, Chad Perry. We're talking about ritual space and the creation of ritual space. One of the things that is kind of interesting about American Indian or Native American tradition is the concept of the vision quest. And I guess that parallels American society and Christian myth in the belief that there is a possibility of each person to attain through their own experience a contact with God and a purpose for living. Have you done a vision quest?
I've done two of them in a traditional way, and I did another one that was based on a psychological approach. And I prefer the traditional way. There's something really amazing about being in that space, and you feel like you're connecting to something that's very, very old and very beautiful. And you're not concerned with psychological problems at all. It's an amazing space to be in. And the way I did it was in the Apache way, which involves going out for 3 days and 3 nights. No food, no water. And you just sit in a circle, and you have a jacket on your back, and you're holding 2 feathers and a little bag of tobacco. And you sit there for 3 days, and you cry for a vision. You pray and pray and pray and cry for a vision. Sing songs, that kind of thing. Sing the sun up, sing the moon, all that kind of thing. And it's very hard work, but it's also very beautiful at the same time. And you do get very thirsty.
You bet. Well, it seems that fasting and thirsting and deprivation of the senses is a big, the Christ wandering in the wilderness for,
He did an amazing vision quest. His lasted 40 days and 40 nights. And when the devil came and tempted him with bread, it shows what a fool he was. Because the first thing you want is a glass of water. You don't want bread.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it just that way. That's
You do when you do it.
You bet.
When you get out there in that space.
You bet. Well, the Dave Lindfest, when he was here, was talking about a friend of his who had hit him with the little test where he said, if you take away your wife and your children, your job, your car, and all your material possessions, what you got left? And
Sounds like a vision quest.
It does. It seems like a quest would be a way of getting centered, knowing who you were. Of course, the wrong answer is, well, there's nothing left, because there's nothing left, you're not there.
That's right.
And the correct answer, of course, is I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
We're winding down to the last few minutes. I'd like to urge folks who might be interested in giving us some input to give us a call at 292-3263. And if not, what I'm going to do is go ahead and thank Chad for being here, and thanks for coming.
Sure.
With such short notice, especially.
That's right.
I hope this has been interesting to you guys. We're just struggling along with it. We're not saying anything's absolute or not absolute. We are always looking for input from the public. Let me just go over a quick little wrap up here for you, so you know what to expect. This program repeats of tonight's show are on Mondays at 1 p.m. in the afternoon and Tuesdays at 9 a.m. in the morning. And we have a little bit of a schedule change coming, so let me go over when we're going to be here again for you. Right now, it's the first and third Sundays of the month at 6 o'clock. That's through June. Starting in July, we'll shift to second and fourth Sundays for the summer, and then there will be a 4-week break after Father's Day. And our Father's Day show is one to look forward to. It's going to be a good one. We're putting a lot of effort in it. The next show will be in 2 weeks at 7 p.m. Some upcoming shows will feature. June the 2nd, that's 2 weeks from today, we will have new views on reproductive responsibility for men. And the male educator from Planned Parenthood will join us with some of the young men he's been working with in the community. June 16th, that's 4 weeks from today, our special Father's Day program, a la Oprah Winfrey. We'll have a studio audience here for you. And, of course, we're going to try not to have the hostility towards men and fathers that program seems to foster occasionally. We always would like to invite viewer comments on the program, as well as suggestions for guests or topics. Our phone number and address are among the credits at the end of the show. We're always, it says, let me back up. It says the next show will be in 2 weeks at 7 p.m., and I question that. It'll actually be at 6 p.m. in 2 weeks. It's always 6 o'clock. And so let's make that correction. I guess this is a typo here. So next show is in 2 weeks at 6. And I am now making a plea for field production and contributions, for studio crew, ideas for shows. We're looking for material on life in New Mexico. We have a great book section if you'd like to, review section, if you'd like to give us some ideas for that. We're looking for a crew and talent for a special shoot on June the 10th, and that'll be hiking the Sandia Mountains. There's 3 free tram passes for the help. We'll, get you right up the lift there for nothing. God, I feel long. Dad, I'm really glad you came down here today. Field producers can call or write for production guidelines. The phone and address, appear during the credits. And if you're qualified as a camera person, floor director, what have you, give us a call. We'd love to have you. As you go through life, whatever be your goal, just remember to keep your eye upon the donut and not upon the hole. Bye-bye. Thanks for being with us.